The Philadelphia Eagles officially have offensive and defensive coordinators filled. Now, what can we expect on both sides of the ball? Plus, he was the key ingredient on a number one defense. Could he now be set to join Sean Desai's staff? And Howie Roseman made it clear the Birds would look to sign multiple running backs this offseason. Should Philly consider this Super Bowl winner who's now on the market? But first, let's run it. Hey everybody, Josh Davis here, and happy Wednesday. We're in March, officially. We've made it to March, and the Combine is here, obviously started yesterday. We've got tomorrow where the official workouts will begin for the defensive linemen and the linebackers, but the exciting news out of Philadelphia, yesterday was officially confirmed. Brian Johnson is the offensive coordinator. Sean Desai is the defensive coordinator. We've been waiting on it for a long time. We've finally gotten it, but was very curious to hear because the interview started yesterday at the Combine, and I don't know if you guys got to listen to Nick Sirianni and speaking about the staff, but very curious to hear this. But take a listen to Nick's approach or his response on the question of, hey, what will the offense look like with Brian Johnson at the helm? Any expectations or differences that we're going to see? Take a listen here.
Yeah, I mean, what you're going to see with our offense is you're not going to see a lot of change. We're going to, because, myself, Shane, right? I mean, Brian, like we do it all together, right? And obviously Shane will be gone. There'll be little differences and little different ways that the game's called, but the way the offense is run with everything is going to be exactly the same. The way our guys run routes are going to be the same. The way we block inside zone is going to be the same, for different looks that we get. The way we do our snap count, like you're not starting, you're really not, you're just continuing to build, right? There is no Shane leaves, you do this, and then you do this again. You just keep doing this because at the end of the day, like I was hired as an offensive coach.
Love Sirianni there, also rocking the underdog hat, but love what he has to say. There's going to be a lot of consistency. There's going to be a lot of similarities there. We've got this, for the most part, a lot of the guys still in place. Obviously, Jalen's still the quarterback. Brian Johnson is going to do a phenomenal job. He's very familiar with Jalen and the rest of the offense and everybody else. He deserves a lot of credit, and as we said on the previous show, I mean, Johnson's resume is incredible. It's impeccable. He has a long list of college quarterbacks that he impacted, improved their game, got them to the highest level, and he's done the same thing with Jalen already. So I'm excited about this hire, looking forward to it. I will be interested to hear if there's a little bit of tongue-in-cheek with it, because he says it's going to be the exact same. I kind of doubt that. I think we're in for a little bit of a ride, a good ride, but a more explosive offense, opening up the playbook. The sky's the limit for Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts. So curious to hear about that. Obviously, Sean Desai, the other big news there yesterday, officially announced as the as the defensive coordinator. But it was interesting because Pete Carroll, the head coach of the Seahawks, was kind of the one to break the story. Doesn't always happen that way. But what I did enjoy was Pete Carroll kind of gave his own report and his own high praise for Desai. So take a listen to this from the Combine yesterday.
He's really, really a brilliant football guy. Background, the information that he holds, his access to information is really special. He helped us get going and making the year's transition. So we got along great. It was a good challenge for me. Kip comes from a different source in his football background. So it was fun to knock heads and make sure that we're always trying to figure it out.
Does he have characteristics that make you think he'd be a good defensive coordinator?
There's no doubt.
And once again, I mean, all high praise for Sean Desai. Pete Carroll, very complimentary of what he brings to the table, what he has. At the end there, it's a little hard to hear, but he asked, if you thought he would be a great defensive coordinator, and he said absolutely. But it's interesting too. I mean, looking at the background, it's not like Sean Desai's name's pulled from thin air. I'm sure that you guys know that and doing your own research, and I haven't already figured this out. But I mean, this guy has a very solid background. Remember, he was already a defensive coordinator, only for 1 year, but he was a defensive coordinator with the Bears, and I believe it's where he led them third in pass defense. It was 23rd in rush defense, but third in pass defense, and overall, I believe it was fifth in overall team defense. So very strong as a defensive coordinator with the Bears. And also, there's some interesting ties to the Eagles here. Vic Fangio obviously was a consultant with the Eagles last season, but Fangio was a defensive coordinator with the Bears from 2015 to 2018, and Desai was a member of that staff. So he's a Fangio disciple. He's been under some great other organizations as well. He's learned. He's been able to kind of have the backseat and learn different nuances and everything else. The thing that I'm very excited about, and I'm looking at different scouting reports and, hey, what scheme does he have? What does he like to do? This is a guy who has crazy looks, crazy fronts, swapping around the defensive ends, maybe stacking them on the same side, rushing from the same side. So I start getting excited about the potential of, hey, you line up Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat on the same side on a obvious passing down. That could absolutely wreak havoc on offenses. So very excited to see that. Another report coming out, speaking of Sean Desai, that came out, you guys may have seen this, but on Bleeding Green Nation, Brandy Lee Gouton had reported Mike Pettine is someone who may be joining the defensive staff. So check out this article here. It says Mike Pettine reportedly in the mix to join the Eagles coaching staff. Jeff Mosher reports he is hearing that the Minnesota Vikings assistant head coach Mike Pettine could join the Eagles coaching staff. Pettine joined the Vikings with his current title in 2022 after serving as a senior defensive assistant for the Bears in 2021. That was the same year Desai served as Chicago's defensive coordinator. Given Desai's relative youth, who turns 40 in April, and inexperience, one season as DC, there's some sense in adding a more seasoned coach to assist him. Pettine fits the bill considering he's been coaching in the NFL since 2004, and he's held defensive coordinator roles with the New York Jets 2009 to 2012, Buffalo Bills 2013, and Green Bay Packers 2018 to 2020. He was also the Cleveland Browns head coach from 2014 to 2015. As an added bonus, Pettine is a local guy. The Doylestown, PA native attended high school at CB West. He was a head coach at William Tennant High School and then North Penn High School towards the beginning of his coaching career. Would be kind of cool to have some hometown flair. The Eagles defense with Pettine being a Bucks County guy and Desai having attended and coached at Temple. Plus, there's obviously Camden, New Jersey native and Temple alumnus Hassan Reddick as defensive cornerstone on the field. So anyway, end quote. And that the article goes on to say just about how fun that would be. Obviously local. You love the Philly camaraderie, just the local talent and everything else there. But let's go back to, obviously, Pettine has a great resume, and I think that would be phenomenal. You bring him in as maybe assistant defensive coordinator. He's already used to working very closely with Desai, so they have a great trust level. Pettine here, he was the defensive coordinator on the number one defense. The Jets in 2009 had the number one defense in the NFL. That was under Rex Ryan. If we remember correctly, that was under the Rex Ryan days of 2009, 2010, 2011. Those were some solid defenses. Granted, the offense was shaky at times, but still, the defense was always the guarantee. The way that they were able to coach up there, and Rex Ryan has been on record multiple times saying that Mike Pettine was my right-hand man. He was the key ingredient that made this thing tick. And so you look at it and say, he obviously knows what that special ingredient is. I like the idea of Pettine. I would be interested in pursuing that, at least interviewing him, possibly bringing him onto the staff. I think all around that would be a great play. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comments below. Should the Eagles consider Mike Pettine legitimately? Okay, last story here, and mentioning the running back situation at Philly. So I know that's been a constant theme and a trend of, hey, what are they going to do? What are the Eagles going to look for? If you didn't catch Howie Roseman's interview yesterday at the Combine, he did say that he would be looking for multiple running backs. And in this league and the way that the Eagles run the ball, you need multiple running backs. So he was talking about that, but there was the hinting, and he didn't ever say this, but the hinting that it may not be possible to sign or to keep Miles Sanders. So if I'm doing some of my own research, looking at the cap and salaries that can be expected and all that, Miles Sanders is probably going to be somewhere around a $7 to $10 million a year, if not more, and he warrants that. He had a very productive season. He's led the league in, I believe it was rushing efficiency. Granted, he's been very weak in terms of the receiving aspect, but I just don't know if it's realistic, especially with saying that Kenny Gainwell is right now RB1. I mean, that's a lock. We are going to have Kenny Gainwell, so but you're looking for someone else. So who can fill that void? But take a look at this article here. Some news coming out of Tampa Bay. And this is written by Jenna Lane on ESPN. But here she says, quote, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers plan to release running back Leonard Fournette, a key contributor in their Super Bowl victory, in their Super Bowl 55 victory. The move will happen before the start of the new league year, March 15th, a source told ESPN. Fournette told the Tampa Bay Times that he asked for his release and that there's no bad blood between him and the franchise. Last offseason, the Bucs signed Fournette, the 4th overall draft pick in 2017, to a 3-year deal worth $21 million up to $24 2024 with incentives. But the Bucs enter the 2023 season over the salary cap by $55 million. So Fournette told the Times that Brady's retirement was a factor in his decision. He said, quote, "Winning is everything." Fournette told the newspaper, "That's all. And in my last 3 years here, that's all we've done. But since my guy, Brady, left, that's why I came. So my time here was up." End quote. The article goes in to continue to mention what Todd Bowles says about the situation, the general manager as well, and there's going back and forth. Jason Licht was the general manager of the Bucs, was mentioning or kind of saying that there's tough decisions to make. He didn't fully come out and say that Fournette's going to be let go, but the writing's on the wall at that point. I mean, if Fournette's basically saying, "Hey, I'm gone," I think you have your answer. But it's just interesting because we've had these other speculations. I know Thomas Mott has brought it up a couple of times of Dalvin Cook. Is that a possibility? There's been reports of obviously Derrick Henry or the Titans looking to do something. But you still ask yourself, what's that going to cost? And Saquon Barkley, to name another one. But all those are going to be very high-paying contracts, at least you expect for all those situations. But here's a guy in Leonard Fournette that it sounds like, from what he's saying here, he's really only interested in winning. So if he gets the opportunity to come to Philly, he already knows what he's getting into. He's getting into the best team in the NFC, the very likely favorite to go to the Super Bowl and probably to win the Super Bowl at this point. So you've got Jalen Hurts, you've got a crazy good offense, a great offensive line, awesome defense to play with. To me, if I'm Leonard Fournette, I'm jumping at any possibility to play with Philadelphia, especially if I want to win. So I bring that up to say, I don't know for sure if this is going to happen. I've only seen very limited reports that Philly would be a possible landing spot and Fournette may be interested. But for him, I think it makes perfect sense. But do you guys want Leonard Fournette? I started thinking, I don't know, questioning on, his rushing attack. He kind of lost a little bit. I think he lost a bit of a step running the football. But if you look at his receiving numbers, he's been through the roof. I mean, he is very much improved in terms of a route runner, his catching ability, yards after contact, which quite honestly, like I mentioned, Miles Sanders did not have and does not seem to have, which was a little surprise coming out of Penn State. I thought he'd be better in the receiving game, but Fournette does. And so it'd be interesting to see, would they consider this? Would Howie Roseman give it a thought, especially if you can sign him for on the cheap? Anyway, just food for thought, but something that I saw there and wanted to point out. But anyway, do want to make mention to live show tonight coming up with Thomas Mott, the Wednesday Link. I think that's the name that we're going to be going with, but 7 o'clock Eastern. It'll be on Thomas's Mott channel, so be sure to go to the Thomas Mott show, check that out. But 7 o'clock Eastern, we'll be sure to see you guys there. But until next time, I'm Josh Davis, and this has been the Philly Special.